All right, again, it's the 7th of November. It's a Saturday. It's a little after 11 in the morning. I'm Mark Edward Ochterman. Got caught up in a bit of a tangent on the relationship between the inner and the outer world, but basically what I intend to talk about is the guided inquiry learning cycle and the relationship between the guided inquiry learning cycle of pogil, or process-oriented guided inquiry learning, and my own interpretation of the relationship between the inner and outer world, which I call philosophy, art, craft, science. So right to it. In the guided inquiry learning cycle, there are three main components. They are exploration, concept, invention, and application. And the distinction between the pogil system of guided inquiry learning cycle and philosophy, art, craft, science is that what I call art and what I call philosophy have been conflated into what they call concept invention. And I find this quite intriguing, given, as an example, R.G. Collingwood's interpretation of art as an idea framework, an ideal framework, that art, pure art, for Collingwood, exists in the mind, and the products of art, or artworks, are not pure art. They are something else, and I think occasionally he does employ the term craft. So let me just look a little bit more closely at pogil. And I'll read their copy here. The learning cycle is what is used as the basis for writing a pogil activity through a carefully crafted guided inquiry approach. The exploration, bold-faced exploration, of a model occurs through a direct questioning. Concept invention, again bold-faced, then takes place as students begin to see patterns and relationships in the data, and terms are introduced. Bold-faced terms are introduced. Finally, questions are posed that ask students to address the application of a concept to new situations, and application is bold-faced. So we have exploration, concept invention, terms being introduced, and application. These are the things that they consider to require boldface. All right, exploration. What they claim to be exploring is a model, and the means of that exploration is direct questioning. And pragmatically, I think, this works fairly well. You present students with a model of something, and you ask them to create some questions, or perhaps you provide them with some questions which they should explore. And I'm not entirely certain whether what is meant here is that the direct questioning is generated by the students. In other words, the students themselves are generating all the questions about the model, or whether the instructor is providing model questions or questions for the students to explore and try to find answers to those questions. It's not so much that the language is vague. I think the language is fairly clear. I'm just not sure that what is meant is what the language says, which is that the students are going to explore the model through direct questioning, just who is generating the direct questioning, whether it's the students or the instructor or a combination of the two. What is being described here in the pogil guided inquiry learning cycle is essentially what I see as being science. Now, one of the characteristics that I've found in science is that its results are unpredictable. So this is one of the great concerns about theory of contemporary theory, and probably, you know, at least back to Dewey, about the nature of science teaching. That science teaching often is essentially providing students with a recipe. The instructor knows what the results of the inquiry should be, because it's not really science at this point. Now it's something that, you know, maybe somewhere in the beginning of the 19th century this actually was science, but now it's a kind of historical recreation that the students are engaged in, where they're trying to do a certain type of titration of a base in an acid, and there's some kind of reagent in there that gives it color, and then the color will change after a certain degree of titration. And the instructor has a fair idea that, you know, after so many micrograms of this you know, solution are added to it, that it will change color in such and such a way. And the advantage of that system is that it's testable. So the instructor knows whether the students have done their work or not. Whereas if you're just kind of like, well, you know, let's see what we can just discover about the world. Here's some baking soda and some, you know, distilled water, and here's some hydrochloric acid. Have go, you know. You know, it's certainly much safer for everybody involved not to have random explosions and, you know, runaway reactions and this sort of thing. And similarly I mean, I'm really speaking outside of my field and with the very, very vague knowledge of these kinds of, even the fundamental concepts of these things, so I should probably not use that as an illustration. But it seems a lot safer, you know, to sort of release students on Plato and, you know, have at it and let me know, and they come up with something wacky. And that's okay, you know, they're not going to blow up the philosophy wing of the school, and probably, you know, not become some kind of wild, you know, let's overturn the structure of the school and create philosopher kings, and you can be the warriors and you can be the whatever, you know. I mean, it's just not, the safety of it all is much greater. So in that sense, exploration in the traditional liberal arts, or I shouldn't say liberal arts, I should really say humanities, by and large, you know, the creation of poetry is not going to, you know, be terribly dangerous. You know, inquiry into philosophical problems is probably not going to, like I said, you know, we're not going to have explosions in the ivory tower. But at the same time, there is a similar issue with philosophy, that, you know, there's this kind of idea that in the history of ideas, we've pretty much established what there is to be learned. You ask the students to explore that. They're not just doing their own thing. And where there is some ability of students to generate their own interpretation, it tends to be pretty far out. And where that has been encouraged, I think it has had deleterious effects, and has kind of led to some disturbances in the general relationship between faculty and students. So it's not on the order of explosions. I don't think this is causing a lot of violent disruption in any obvious way, but it is causing some turnover in faculty, and probably a good deal of disruption of students in the classes. There's a way in which that's bad, and there's a way in which that's okay. And once again, I've wandered pretty far away from pogil, so I also see that my battery's running down, so I'm going to give it a little break here.